Thank you everybody for coming along and attending this talk and workshop today. Of course, we had no idea how many people were going to be here, and it's absolutely great to see that well, actually there's 59 now, and it's likely to go over that. So let me tell you, Scouting and Freemasonry have both been a very big part of my life. I was born into a Scouting family, and I became a Cub Scout at the age of 8. I think it was just 2 days after my 8th birthday. 50 odd years later, I'm still very active in Scouting. I'm chair of my local Scout district, and I'm a leadership and management trainer. I became a Freemason at the age of 31, and I did so by joining a lodge that was made up largely of other Scouters. For almost 30 years, I've been promoting local links, in particular, between Scouting and Freemasonry, and for around half that time, I've acted as the liaison between the two organisations, between the Scouts and between the United Grand Lodge of England, at least. So that's why I'm here. But what about you? I suspect some of you may be here out of curiosity, some because you already have some knowledge of Freemasonry, and perhaps some because you want to engage with local Freemasonry and seek its support for local Scouting. So Freemasonry it's really one of the world's oldest and largest social and charitable organisations. What's special about it is it offers a unique form of personal development, and that's structured around a series of dramas. And each of those dramas teach meaningful lessons. The origins of Freemasonry, though, lie back with the medieval or operative stonemasons who built our cathedrals and our castles. Now, what they did was they provided a structured training for their apprentices, and they employed only those who were properly qualified. As well as providing occupational training, they were concerned with moral and social education. And so they used stories, dramas, and symbols, a bit like the parables from the New Testament, if you like. They used these in order to convey their teaching. Now, the dramas themselves were based on stories from the building of King Solomon's Temple, which was the first major building project to be described in any real detail. So that's the stonemasons, the people who built the cathedrals. What we call Freemasonry, or more particularly speculative Freemasonry, dates from around or just over 300 years ago, from the early 18th century. And it emerged really as an Enlightenment organisation. It was built upon the principles of mutual respect, tolerance, particularly a religious and political tolerance, education and self-improvement. So our members nowadays no longer build castles and cathedrals, at least not very many of them do. I certainly don't. So instead, what we've done is we've adopted and adapted the stonemasons' dramas, really to give us a framework to help us build ourselves to become the best versions of ourselves we can be. And that's for the benefit of ourselves, for our relationships with others, and so that we can make positive contributions to our communities and to society. Now, the dramas themselves form the progressive steps or degrees. So I'm now beginning to introduce a little bit of Masonic jargon for you. So we talk about Masonic degrees. So these are progressive steps that our new members take. And each step conveys different social or moral principles. Now, as Freemasons, we have 4 core principles, which are integrity. So as Freemasons, we want to build ourselves to be people of integrity, and membership provides us with a structure to help us achieve that goal. Friendship is very, very important. Friendship for us in Freemasonry provides, well, Freemasonry itself provides a really good basis for forming new friendships, and the friendships formed between members tend to be long-lasting. Many of them last for life. Our third value there is respect. So Freemasonry builds unity, tolerance, and acceptance. It brings together people irrespective of our race, religion, and other perceived differences that tend to divide us as a society. And finally, charity. Kindness, compassion, and charitable giving are deeply ingrained within Freemasonry. And from the comments, it's clear that some of you recognise that. We make, as Freemasons, positive contributions in both time and money to our communities and to various causes. Now, there's very clearly a close match between Freemasonry's values and Scouting's core values, which are described today as integrity, respect, care, belief, and cooperation. The alignment between those sets of values is very, very close indeed. Now, I mentioned that Freemasonry brings together people irrespective of our differences. And to be clear, it's open to people of all origins and backgrounds. It's for people regardless of their race, upbringing, socioeconomic status, disability, sexuality, or religion. If you meet our qualifications for membership, you can join. And we describe Freemasonry as universal. It takes place across the whole of the world. Now, the original stonemasons, back in those people who built our cathedrals, they would have been men. And so when our earliest lodges got together to form the first regulatory body, or Grand Lodge, just over 300 years ago, it was, given the time, also for men only. Today, however, we have men-only lodges, we have women-only lodges, and we have mixed lodges, each of them having their own Grand Lodge. So therefore, in this country at least, and in many others, every person wishing to become a Freemason has complete choice whether they wish to be part of single-sex Freemasonry or mixed Freemasonry. Now, the lodges that I belong to are part of the oldest Masonic authority in the world, which is the United Grand Lodge of England, known as UGLE. It was originally founded in 1717. Now, there's a separate Grand Lodge in Ireland and another one in Scotland. When I say United Grand Lodge of England, that incorporates the Principality of Wales, and it also has a number of overseas districts as well. There are also two women-only Grand Lodges, the Order of Women Freemasons and Freemasonry for Women. And I'm very, very pleased to say that we have with us today the Grand Master of Freemasonry for Women, Christine Chapman, and the Grand Secretary of the Order of Women Freemasons, Sylvia Major. And they will be available for the Q&A session shortly. These Grand Lodges, I should say, work very, very closely together to promote a better understanding of Freemasonry. Now, Freemasonry brings together people of goodwill across differences of faith and politics. So to prevent diverse religious and political views dividing us, we insist that neither topics are discussed when we meet as Freemasons or when we're acting in any Masonic capacity. Therefore, our lodges are places where people of many different religions and political views can meet together in harmony based upon what we have in common and despite those things that divide us. Now, it must be very clear already that there are a number of parallels between Scouting and Freemasonry. Both are worldwide membership organisations that are built around a set of values and principles. Membership of both of them is required by taking a promise and by agreeing to live to a code of behaviour. In Scouting, we call these the promise and law. In Freemasonry, we take an obligation and we take part in our dramas or morality plays. Both organisations offers its members a structured system of progression. In Scouting, for young people at least, this is through the Scouting programme and its award scheme. And of course, as adults, we have our own systems of progression through our adult training programme and so forth. In Freemasonry, the progression is through our series of degrees. You can even say that both organisations have a uniform. We know, of course, Scouting does, and we know that very well. In the case of Freemasonry, I would say that our uniform is the distinctive regalia and smart dress that we wear at our meetings. And more than that, our organisational structure is also very similar. Scouting takes place in scout groups within local communities. Freemasonry takes place in lodges, again in local communities. Nationally, the Scout Association is the governing body for the Scouts, and we've seen that the Grand Lodges fulfil the same function for Freemasonry in this country. Between these bodies and the groups and lodges are the Scout counties or areas, and in the case of the United Grand Lodge of England, the Masonic provinces. Often the boundaries for these coincide, and we know that, of course, Scouting is then broken down into districts, and in large Masonic provinces we also have subdivisions called groups or areas. Lastly, as a consequence of both organisations being multi-faith and non-partisan, they have both been recognised as international forces for good in the world. So if you break down the Scout Promise and Law, and if you break down what is known as the charge to the initiate in Masonic ritual, you'll soon realise that both organisations are built on exactly the same principles: personal faith and beliefs, citizenship and service to others, and lastly, self-development. So we can think of these as being concerned with our spiritual, social, and personal development. To put it another way, both organisations are concerned with developing the complete person. Now, the fact that both organisations share the same values have many other features in common and have similar organisational structures, all of these things create opportunities for us. So a very large proportion of Freemasons have once been Scouts, and so there is tremendous goodwill towards Scouting within Freemasonry. And Freemasonry already donates large sums of money to Scouting. In 2008, our central charity gave £500,000 to the Scout Association to develop new groups. And in 2015, a further £211,000 was donated to the Better Prepared project to open Scouting in our most deprived communities. Locally too, Freemasonry has donated large sums. For example, provinces have funded an administration centre at Walesby Forest campsite in Nottinghamshire, a high ropes course in Essex, and a new accommodation block in Bedfordshire. Many smaller grants have been donated to Scout groups and districts around the country. As well as money, Freemasons can also offer the use of their often very impressive community facilities, so for events such as award nights, training courses, conferences, committee meetings, and fundraising socials, although it's unlikely that many Masonic halls would want troop nights really to be run there, or ball games to be run in their rather nice premises. In addition, with their very broad membership, Freemasons represent many different professions and trades. Many are only too willing to contribute their skills and expertise to Scouting, whether that be as electricians, builders, treasurers, first aiders, badge examiners, or trustees. The list is almost endless. In return, Freemasonry can learn a lot from Scouting's experience of transformation and change. Freemasonry itself is going through a lot of change as it makes its own adaptations, develops public awareness, and pursues a modernisation agenda. Scouting and Freemasonry already have excellent relations at national level. Twice a year, I meet with the chief executives of both the United Grand Lodge of England and the Scout Association, when the three of us discuss current issues and challenges. So the door is open for you to develop your own mutually beneficial relationships in your own communities, whether that be for the benefit of a Scout group, district, or county, or area. One excellent example of a local collaboration is the Honourway Scout and Guide group, which is for patients in the Birmingham Children's Hospital. Honourway is sponsored by Pathfinder Lodge in Worcestershire, of which Paul Wong is a leading member. And that particular lodge provides the group executive and trustees for the Scout group, which has, of course, because it's in a children's hospital, has a transient membership and therefore unlikely to get other people, or certainly not parents, to be able to be trustees. Many Masonic lodges are formed for people with a shared interest, whether that be that they all went to the same school, university, served in the same regiment, have the same hobby, or whether they have an affinity with another organisation. Around England and Wales, there are 41 Masonic lodges that have a specific interest in supporting youth work, and Scouting forms the major part of those. Most of our provinces, we have 47 provinces in England and Wales, most of them have at least one of these lodges. So together the lodges have formed the Kindred Lodges Association, and it's the KLA that is bringing this workshop to you today. So how would you go about forming a local relationship within Freemasonry? Let's start with the contact that a Scout county or area might have, and let's start with the in this case with men's Freemasonry. So what they would do is seek to form a relationship or make contact with a Masonic province. And in order to do that, you can contact your local Masonic province on the United Grand Lodge website. And there's a link for it there. And I can give you something shortly, which will give you that link to keep. So there's a website where if you go to the About Us and then Provinces, that will take you directly to a link to the Provincial Grand Secretary. And his contact details are under the name of his province. So in most cases, there's also a link to the province's website, and you can use that to get a bit of background research. In the case of women's Freemasonry, the best thing to do is to contact the Grand Lodges themselves. And again, I've put their contact details in there, and you'll get a fact sheet uploaded shortly, which will give you those contacts as well. What I would suggest you do is that you propose an initial exploratory meeting between the county or area commissioner and the provincial Grand Master to get to know each other, identify shared interests and challenges, and see if there's scope for any local collaboration. If you wish to ask for any support, please though be specific and detail who will benefit, how they will benefit, and where they are based. Please consider Freemasonry to be more than just a source of funds. Think about us as being a repository of skills and good facilities as well. If you are asking for something, you may also want to offer something in return. Scouting has developed good practice in the areas of membership, communication, change management, social media, and many other activities that are very, very relevant to Freemasonry. Freemasonry is doing the same, so sharing your learning will be much appreciated. And to maintain the relationship, you may wish to add the Provincial Grand Master and Provincial Grand Secretary to your list of people to invite to major events such as AGMs. I would very much appreciate being kept informed of any progress, as I'm collating examples of good practice and may also be able to help facilitate if you have any difficulty making contact. And my contact details will also be in the fact sheet as well. Now, if you represent a scout group or district, you may wish to contact one or more local lodges, and a good start point is to see if there's a lodge for scouters near to you. The Kindred Lodges website will give you this information, and I can put you in touch with any lodge secretaries if you want anything further. If there's not a KLA member lodge near to you, I would approach your local provincial Grand Secretary, or in the case of women's Freemasonry, the Grand Lodges themselves. Once again, I suggest arranging to meet members to form a relationship, to identify shared interests. And it may be a great help if you invited them to any events that you're running as a group. If you're seeking any support, again, be specific and detail who will benefit and how. As with provinces, please keep me informed and get in touch if you want any further help. And just to give you an example of scale, we have around 8,000 scout groups in the UK. In England and Wales, we have just over 7,100 Masonic lodges. So there will be more than one Masonic lodge near to you. Now, the benefits of building these local relationships with Freemasonry are many. You will have a lasting community-based relationship that could be a source of a lot of help, varied help over future years. You may be very surprised to discover quite how much you have in common, certainly in terms of shared challenges and solutions. In fact, there's a great deal local scouting and Freemasonry can learn from each other. I will also point you to two other sources of information. First of all, there's my book on the subject. In 2012, United Grand Lodge appointed me to its 200-year-old annual lectureship, and my title was Scouting and Freemasonry, Two Parallel Organisations. And the book provides a lot of background material, and all proceeds from its sale are split between Scouting and Masonic charities. And in fact, the proceeds from the book and other donations associated with the lectureship have been, the 50% that's gone to Scouting has gone towards our heritage activities, and a lot of our recent heritage things we've introduced in our heritage work has been part funded or fully funded in some cases through this source. Then there is the fact sheet that I will upload for you very shortly. And I wrote that to summarize some of the points I've made in the talk and to help you make contact with local Freemasonry and for local Freemasonry to make contact with you. I'll upload the document for you in the chat area during the Q&A session, but you can also download the very same document from the Kindred Lodges Association's website and from my own Masonic website from my articles page. So I've told you something about Freemasonry and how it's organised. I've emphasised the value of creating local connections, and you'll have some resources to help you do that, exactly that. I and other members of the Kindred Lodges Association are available to help in the future. You only have to contact me and we can take it from there. So it's now time to answer your questions from the chat area. And just to remind you, I have with me Christine Chapman, who's the Grand Master of Freemasonry for Women, Sylvia Major, the Grand Secretary of the Order of Women Freemasons, and of course there's Paul Wong, Steve Richards and Mark Smith, all of us from the Kindred Lodges Association. So I'm going to hand back to you, Paul, and see what questions we've got coming at us.
Excellent, thank you very much. Well, thank you, Tony, for that very, very informative presentation. It was great to see and hear you go through those things. We have got quite a few questions, which is lovely to see.
Fantastic.
Some quite short and sharp and easily answered. There's some others that I will be referring to the panel. First of all, the very first question we had was from Joshua. Joshua Hall from the USA was asking whether or not he could join the KLA over in America, and the answer is yes. There's various ways that you can do that. Our international liaison secretary is on the chat. Adrian Eggleston will be able to pick that up. But if anybody would like more information about the Kindred Lodges Association, the best place really is to go to the website, and that's kindredlodges.org.uk. If you go there, you'll be able to look at the various pages we have. Associate membership is one of the pages where you'll be able to get in touch and find out a lot more information. So hopefully, Joshua, that has answered your question there.
Can I just add to that what you can the associate membership is an individual membership, and the sort of full membership or main membership is by lodges, by scouting lodges. Now, there's only one scout lodge that we're aware of in the USA, so associate membership would be more appropriate for you. So what I will do is I'll also upload for you the associate membership form. So associate membership is open to Freemasons who are not members of a scouting lodge or a member lodge of the KLA. So as I say, I'll upload also, I've just uploaded the fact sheet of creating local connections, and you can see that in the chat area now. And I'm just about to upload the associate membership form.
Lovely. We had a question from, we've had a couple of questions actually from Pat Stannard. She asked about how to get in touch with local Freemasons and the meeting rooms, etc. And Tony, you've covered that already in the presentation. The last question from Pat, and I'll probably hand over here to Christine and Sylvia, and was that how could somebody join the Freemasons lodges for women?
Christine, would you like to take that first?
Yeah, okay. Well, they can come and check us out on our website, first of all, find out all about us. And we're also on Facebook and other social media platforms. And we ask that you are a woman of good moral character and over 18. And if you make contact with us, we can happily discuss your joining and take it from there. So it's obviously if we've not got a lodge in your area, we'll tell you. All right, so we don't have such a widespread geographical, placement of lodges as the OWF. So either one of us, hopefully, would be able to satisfy you.
Thank you, Christine. And I've just uploaded, I've just put in the chat area the web address, but that's also, the link to that is also in the first of the documents, the Creating Local Connections documents. So, Sylvia, for the Order of Women Freemasons.
Well, one of the differences is that they can't join us until they're actually 21. So it is 21, and they obviously have to be of good character and believe in a sublime being. And that would be the basics. We have a website, and on there is an inquiry form. So the best method is to load that and send it in. Although the office is closed, we're dealing with the stuff from home, so then we would reply and put them in touch with somebody in an area near to where they live.
Thank you, Sylvia. And perhaps it's worth explaining to people that the membership criteria, other than the difference in between as men and women, the membership criteria for UGLE, the HFAF and the OWF are exactly the same. There is a slight difference in age issues. In all of us, 21 plus is perfectly okay, and UGLE and HFAF have also got some things about people younger than that, providing they're over 18 and not still at school. So back to you, Paul.
Lovely, thanks very much. Adele has asked questions about how we're able to support people. I think the question is do we support individuals as well as groups or scout groups or districts and so on and so forth? And the answer is yeah. Freemasons will quite happily support any good cause that they're aware of and able to support. Of course, excuse me. Of course, lodges do get quite a lot of call on their time and money, and they'll do their utmost to support wherever they're able to do that. But Adele, I think if you're able to look at the links that Tony has already posted, then that would be your first point of call. If you make contact with your local province, as it's called in Freemasonry, and then your lodges, and make a case out with them, then yes, they would be able to support if you're able to make contact with them and you fulfil the criteria, so to speak.
It's worth pointing out that every lodge will have its own charity funds, and that every lodge will make their own decisions as to their funding policy and who and what they will support. A lot of scout lodges obviously donate money to scouting or guiding causes. In some cases, those lodges align themselves very much with the county and try to spread their resources across the whole of a county. But we then have provinces with their own provincial funds, and that they can be a very, very good source of financial support. So you've got lodges to go to, and particular scout lodges, and you've got your Masonic provinces to go to as well. Back to you, Paul, for another question, I think.
Yeah, I think Mark Smith is trying to get in.
If that's okay, if you don't mind, Paul, if I could just add
that's fine. Yeah, please do, Mark.
Add to the support thing. So it's not a promotion, but Lincolnshire hosts a big jamboree such as NorJam and Wings and all the other national jamborees. We have one called Poacher, and the Lincolnshire province, through our Kindred Lodges Lodge, in our case Rudyard Kipling, supports straight into the heart of the organisation of that jamboree. So what we're doing there is using our local provincial reach and the charity funds and various things. Instead of just affecting local scout groups or even just the county, we're injecting in at the international level, which is absolutely wonderful. So it doesn't just benefit local scouting, it benefits internationally, which is great. But a second string to the bow, because although we're discussing support, most people think financial support. A really lovely side to this is that you have a pool of Freemasons that probably are the people that get things done and have time on their hands. In actual fact, we all know the real busiest people and the people to ask are the ones that don't have time on their hands. But if you need support with an executive committee, be it at group or district, at county level, you've got bags of experience of people that work really nicely on executive committees, working groups, organisational things. So the support doesn't just need to be financial. Freemasonry has a lot to give at the executive and the resource level as well. Sorry for
I think it's
interrupting.
worth. I think it's worth just adding. The guys running this event are UK centric, or really England and Wales centric, in the sense that we're all members of the United Grand Lodge of England. But over in the States, and we've got a number of people here from the States, and I'm thinking of Brian Bell in particular as a fellow member of the National Association of Masonic Scouters. So in the United States, where every state has its own Grand Lodge, and where there's only one Scout Lodge, there is an individual organisation called the National Association of Masonic Scouters. I'm an associate member of that, and anybody else from the United States who's interested in that, if you direct a question at me or contact me afterwards, I can put you in touch with those as well. Back to you, Paul.
Lovely, thanks. We had a question in from Alan. Alan mentioned that his uncle was a Freemason, and Alan asked the question whether do you need a lot of memory and a lot of money to be a Freemason? Can I just throw that open to the panel?
Well, I mean, first of all, Freemasons come from all sorts of backgrounds. Now, the money side of it, there is an annual membership fee, and it's not too distant actually from what individual members of the Scouts, or at least young people, would pay, that goes into our national body. So our annual fee that goes into the national body is roughly similar to that that young people pay in the Scouts. On top of that, the costs of membership largely depend on the lodge and the type of lodge that it is. So some lodges, like to have rather nice meals, so their meal costs would be rather higher than other ones. Other lodges are more down to earth, and they keep their costs much, much lower. So there is a range of lodges to suit different people's appetites, if you like, and what they're really looking for. So in terms of that, that's the money thing. There really is a broad range. I mean, yes, there are people in Freemasonry who are quite well off, but there's other people who perhaps are doing the sort of jobs that most of the rest of the world are doing, and live in the same way that the rest of us do. So you don't have to be rich, certainly not, in order to be a Freemason. In terms of memory, well, our dramas are delivered from memory, and it's certainly very helpful if you are good at learning. I have to say it was a lot easier to learn that stuff when I was a lot younger than it is now. But most of our lodges break up the work into smaller components to make it really accessible and to include as many members as possible in that, and to participate in that work. So it's not a membership requirement by any means, but it certainly comes in useful if you want to particularly get involved in that aspect of Freemasonry. If you don't, there's plenty of other things for you to do.
Lovely. We've been asked by Marcus Humphrey whether or not is there any liaison into the Grand Lodge of Scotland or the Grand Lodge of Ireland, and we've spoken about the work that the KLA is doing in United Grand Lodge of England and the Scout Association. But are we aware of what some of those other Grand Lodges might be doing with scouting in those areas?
We have only one scouting lodge. I think the thing to understand is that the KLA was founded as a membership system for lodges. So lodges formed the KLA, and lodges joined the KLA. And it's only in fairly recent years that we've developed the individual associate member side. In Scotland, there's only one scouting lodge that we're aware of. And Marcus, I think you and I communicated recently about this. And that is Fleur de Lis Lodge in Ayrshire. And they are a member of the KLA. But we haven't yet developed the relationship from the KLA to the Grand Lodge of Scotland or the Grand Lodge of Ireland. Now, that is something that some of us are talking about, and we're looking at ways in which we can do that. It means that we have to make some adjustments perhaps to some of the ways we work. I think what it would be really, the way to do that would be for us to connect with Freemasons from Scotland and from Ireland in order to work, with them and to facilitate them to build those relationships based upon the experience we've got. So, it's work in progress. There's one or two areas where we're developing new approaches, and that's certainly one of them. And it's something that I think is really important. And you know, another thing we're developing is the relationship with the women's Grand Lodges, and that's why Christine and Sylvia are with us today as well. It's work in progress, Marcus.
So we've had a question from Mary. Mary mentions that she did some work in 2016 with the On Away Scout and Guide group, which is absolutely fantastic. And thank you for working with them there at the Birmingham Children's Hospital. She then goes on to ask about, do we support girl guiding? Does the KLA support girl guiding at all? And would we be open to service projects?
But I mean, Paul, do you want to take that as our chairman?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, the answer in short is the Kindred Lodges Association really is open to support projects in a variety of different places. So how it actually works is the individual lodges in the different areas would be able to network with principally scout groups, but also there are other youth groups that we do get involved with, such as the other uniformed organisations, sort of Army Cadets, Air Cadets, Sea Cadets. Girl Guiding is definitely a grouping that we would work with. Tony, you'd have to correct me here, but I'm not aware that we have engaged with Girl Guiding officially in the recent past, but certainly that you know it does fit within the aims and objectives of the Kindred Lodges Association to support those uniformed youth organisations. So yeah, Mary, if you want to get in touch with the KLA, myself via the Kindred Lodges Association, and let's commence some dialogue as to what the ideas might be.
I think I'm aware that some of our lodges have supported guiding locally, and I think that there's a real opportunities for further developments as we get closer to Christine and Sylvia's organisations, both of which are interested in what we've been doing with scouting. So I think there's a number of potential directions of travel as we build on the success we've had in creating the relationships with scouting. So again, it's a watch this space, but we do know that some of our lodges have supported guiding locally.
Yeah, absolutely. That is largely about it, Tony. We've had some questions around how to get in touch with local Freemasons. You've answered that in your presentation, and we're all eagerly awaiting the document in the chat area to take away.
Okay, so I've uploaded, thank you, Paul. I've uploaded the document called Scouts and Freemasonry. It's a PDF document, and I've uploaded that a couple of times. I know somebody said that they couldn't see it, but I've uploaded it again, so you should be okay. It is available on the website. So if I just share with you the web addresses again that we've given you. So I'm just going to share my screen to give you that back. And I'll put the web addresses also in the chat area. I've also uploaded the associate members form for people who wish to join the Kindred Lodges Association as an individual member. So the one place where you can go and where you'll be able to contact me and I'll be able to answer any other questions or direct you towards other things is my own website. So that's my website address that I've just put into the chat area as well. If you can I ask all of you, if you've seen in the chat area the documents that I've uploaded, can you just give me a thumbs up so I know that at least some of you have got them? Okay, so I'm seeing thumbs. Is there anybody who's not had those documents or can't access them? Give me a thumbs down if that's the case. I can't see any thumbs down unless I'm missing something.
Just look at Mark. If Mark Adamson, Mark raised it that he wasn't sure he had the documents. So
okay, Mark, if you haven't got them, just drop me a line through my website. There's a contact me page on the website, and I'll make sure that you get them straight away. So how are we doing for time? So no other questions? Sorry, just when somebody's just said they can't see it, if you scroll the chat area up and down just with your mouse, you should be able to go back and see it. I can keep uploading it, but I suspect if there's something, it may be, if you're not seeing it despite scrolling up and down, it may be something to do with your local settings. If your local settings don't allow you to download files, then you wouldn't see them, in which case, if you use my website, just go to my website, prestonian2012.org.uk, or the Kindred Lodges one, KLA.org.uk, and that will give you those documents as well. I know that one of our team has had difficulty with his connection, and I'm just looking to see whether he's back. Steve?
Yeah, I'm back.
You're back. Did you want to add anything at all?
Well, I was going to say, I saw one question earlier on, and because I dropped out, I lost all the earlier messages. But someone asked about, is the main hall in London? Well, obviously, the answer is yes, and that is Freemasons Hall in Great Queen Street, which is the main headquarters for the United Grand Lodge of England. Obviously, Scotland and Ireland, being separate Grand Lodges, have their own headquarters in Edinburgh and Dublin. But if anyone's interested in going to Great Queen Street, I don't think it's open yet because of obviously COVID-19 situation. But when it's open, any member of the public is free to visit it. They've got a very interesting museum, and you get a very interesting tour around the building. And you go to Grand Temple and a couple of the other rooms as well. So if you're ever in London, once Freemasons Hall is open, I can highly recommend a visit to Great Queen Street.
Yeah, it's just outside Covent Garden. It's between Holborn and Covent Garden, and it's the only Art Deco building built in London that is still being used for its original purpose, and it's an absolutely incredible building.
Yeah, often appears on things like Poirot, and it was the headquarters in Spooks. They showed the front of the building for that, and lots of other films and TV programs. You suddenly, if you're a Freemason and know the building, you go, oh, there's Freemasons Hall there.
I just wonder whether Sylvia wants to say anything just to finish.
Well, no, thank you very much for inviting us to join you. It's been very interesting, and I'm sure we'll be able to look at this, in the future. It's not something we've done in the past, but obviously something for the future.
Absolutely. We've got lots of work to do, and there's lots of opportunities to build on, I think. And Christine, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say we look forward to working with you all in the future and hope that this is going to prove very fruitful.
Excellent. Thanks, Christine. So, Paul, I think we're done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just there's been a few thanks already, and I just really thank yourself, Tony, for your presentation. The way that you delivered your presentation was incredibly informative. Thank you to my co-contributors for being here and fielding some of those questions, and Chris for all your technical wizardry in the background. And ladies and gents, for you all for joining us for the last almost an hour, and passing in your questions. Don't forget the Kindred Lodges Association website and Tony Harvey's own website are a wealth of information and an opportunity for you to get in touch with us should you wish to do so. And really, thank you all very much indeed, and have a wonderful evening.